So did you know that there was something going on with you and you couldn't quite identify it, or did you feel like you had been carrying the stress? I mean, I'm just wondering, because you were what, 7?
Seven.
when
I
your
was
dad
7 years
died?
old, correct.
So did you always feel a little off kilter?
No, everything, I mean, for me, obviously growing up I mean, in front of the public, it was something for me that was natural. It was actually it was a natural thing for me. People looked at me and like, how do you do this? But I actually kind of compartmentalized a lot of my issues and created just forget about it, put it to the closet and keep on going because I was always busy. There was always something going on. So I never really looked at myself. Plus, nobody really cared. Nobody asked me how I was doing. They were more focused on telling me their story about how they're affected about my father's loss. So it was not about me, it was about them, it was about everyone else. And my nature is to be able to help people. And that's, I think, what kept me going was actually being able to help, being able to utilize what my father left me to continue helping people and not focus on me. I was focusing more on helping people.
And so then what happened a month ago that you had this breakthrough?
Well, one thing that I knew for sure that I had ADHD. There was no doubt in my mind. And when I got treated 8 years ago, they told me that I grew up actually impaired. I walked through that door 8 years ago with only 64% of my balance, no peripheral vision, and I'm starting to have memory loss. Actually in the shower every single day since I was very young. Every time I closed my eyes, I had this feeling that I was falling. So that explained why I felt like that for many, many years. It was because I had no balance. My brain was off kilter. It was actually, I was completely off. So when I got treated within 4 days, I was walking around with 84% instead of 64. My peripheral vision actually opened up for the first time since I was young. And I understood that there were some more issues, but I understood what was happening with me in school. I could not do homework. Most of my tests had to be oral, and I would ace them, but I could not do homework. I could not do notes. Anything writing, I could not do. Which I knew all the information. I knew the classes. And everything was visual. I could see everything here, but I cannot do anything on paper. And that for me was kind of weird. And was able to start really focusing on how to really create a group, a team, be able to do all my things, and knew my limitations. So that's one thing I did know. In 1986, I went through an aptitude test, and that's how I found out, which was great because now I figured, okay, I can't do this. That's my limitations. I'm gonna, not deal with that, and just focus on how to be able to deal some other ways, and that's what I did. But being able to understand my issues with the ADD, ADHD, I said, there was time that I could not focus. And this part of my life, and starting to study for this test for the insurance, was the catalyst for me to understand that I had some more issues because I could not focus. I mean, the way I wanted to focus, and there was something wrong here. So when I started studying for the Pennsylvania insurance test, I said, there's something really wrong because I cannot do anything here in terms with my mind. I went to seek some help, and that's when I was diagnosed that I had PTSD, ADD, and all the above that were really affecting my performance. And I thank God for that.
So how do you treat PTSD at this point? How is it treated?
Well, one of the things that I'm starting to know now is actually there is a couple of ways. Obviously, understanding what's going on. I actually started medication for the first time. I don't take medication for anything. I mean, not even very against medication unless they have to. And for me, actually, it really has started to help me. I started probably 2 weeks ago, and being able to really. There was a lot of roller coaster in terms of emotions and ways of dealing and thoughts, how to process, see something and kind of how to process it. It has changed tremendously. for the PTSD, there are many ways. There's a lot of ways. Everyone's different, but you need to have a support system, a support group that can actually really deal with mostly the veterans, for example. There are completely different types of issues. For me personally, I think the type for me is continue to help people. It's actually my treatment. That's my way of coping with a lot of the things that actually kept me sane all these years, is being able to focus on how to help other people. And that for me has been a blessing.